Now the new bushing, we need to align this area here. Needs to be aligned with an oil passage that's inside the bore where the bushing fits. So that has to be aligned. There's a hole there for oil flow, and there's a channel inside the bushing that where the oil flows. You might be able to see it there. Kind of like a rifling, like a rifle in the barrel of a gun. And that's an oil passage. So that has to be aligned with a hole, which is inside here on the edge. You'll see the hole for the oil. Okay, so now we need to press in our new bushing, and we need to align this hole here. This is an oil lubrication hole, so we need to align this notch right here in the bushing with that hole to make it I don't know if you can see that, with that hole there, and you might see there's like a rifling in there. So we need to get that so when it's pressed in, it's aligned with that hole, and that hole takes a lubrication to the shaft. So we'll do that next. And if you don't have a shop press, you can also use a hammer and a block of wood or a plastic mallet to drive the bushing in. Okay, so we set up a new bushing with a block of wood to protect the bushing. And we'll go ahead and start pressing it. Okay, so we changed it a little bit and put in a couple of washers there. And now we're using one of the pieces in the kit to get us the clearance and finish inserting our bushing. And there's our bushing. It's nice and flush. Okay, so we have our new bushing pressed in and lined up with the oil hole. So here's the oil hole, and the bushing cutout is lining up with the hole. So we're good to go on that respect. So we have cleaned, scrubbed, and disinfected our power steering pump. And we started with degreaser, and we finished off with brake cleaner. So now we need to take off our remaining seals. There's a seal here, there's one here, and then there's two inside. And we also used compressed air to blow to blow all the passages and make sure everything is clean. And we got our power steering pump rebuild kit. We'll start with the two medium-sized rings. The larger one actually goes on the outside, and we'll show you that one next. It goes right here on the outside. Okay, and now we're ready to begin installing our O-rings, and before we do that, we want to lubricate him with brake assembly fluid or automatic transmission fluid. And if you, for some reason, if you forget, and if it happens that you forget and install the O-rings without lubricating them first, a mechanic's trick, one easy way to taking them out without damage, you can use a pin and like a safety pin or a regular pin, and you can just place it next to the you can place it next to the O-ring and simply lift it out. Just be careful not to pinch it, and it's an easy way to take it out without damaging your new O-ring. And we'll lubricate it with some transmission fluid. And we'll place it in the last channel. Put some transmission fluid channel as well. And this will protect it when assembling it. We'll place our second O-ring once we lubricate it in the second channel. Like I mentioned previously, the first channel is for the retaining ring. Second channel takes an O-ring, and the third channel takes another O-ring. Okay, now we'll go ahead and remove the old O-ring from the perimeter of the pump. You can use a pick for that. Your pin might work. These are usually too hard and brittle for the pin, so, and they usually just break off. I just want to break them off. Lubricate the channel. And then we'll lubricate our new O-ring. You want to make sure everything is real clean when you're reassembling. Apply a little more automatic transmission fluid. You can also use petroleum jelly in these steps, but it is usually recommended as a first choice to use automatic transmission fluid. Okay, once we did that, we have 3 more O-rings. But before we do those, we want to get our seal in. Make sure everything's clean. This is our shaft seal, and it goes in with the, you'll see there's a spring, so that goes down. So we want to get it started straight. And we can use a plastic mallet or a block of wood and a hammer to clamp it down. We'll put a cloth to so it won't be getting dirty. There it is. Okay, now we can place our other seals. And these are the flat seals. So they go here. So we'll get those lubricated as well. Okay, so we installed the two O-rings in the inside of the pump on the second and third channel. The first channel is reserved for the snap ring, the retaining ring. The second one takes the first O-ring, and the third channel takes the second O-ring. So you got first channel, you have the retaining ring. Second channel, you have one O-ring. Third channel, you have another O-ring. So now that we did that, we're ready to install our shaft. And we've degreased and finished with brake cleaner all the internal parts. And now we also pressed in a new bearing, so we're ready to install our shaft. And we'll pushing in the middle only, not on the outside. Middle. Now the easy way of reinstalling the shaft is to put a copper penny right on the shaft, on the top of the shaft, and use a small diameter deep socket, and making sure you hit only in the middle of the shaft. Simply pound it in. You hear it when it bottoms. You hear the changing sound when it bottoms out. And we use the pennies so as not to damage the shaft. The mechanics trick. Okay, now we're ready to, there's a shaft there. We're ready to install our pins in the pins. There's our shaft. Now we're ready to install the pins. You have to align the parts, and then you place your pins in their bore. Like so. And then the center will be rotating freely. And now we're going to be installing our vanes, our pump vanes. And you want to make sure everything is really clean, your hands are clean, or gloves. And on a special note, if your vanes have a rounded edge, place the rounded edge of the vane towards the cam ring. Okay, so we have coated all hard parts with power steering fluid, and this is a special note when putting in your cam ring. The cam ring has the bigger holes, and these bigger holes need to align with the elongated channels on the truss plate back here, such as right here, this area. So the dowel pins will go in the smaller holes, and these two larger holes, they need to align with the elongations here and here. And if you flip it over this way, they will when you set it down, they will not align. You won't see the elongation. So you have to have it this way. So in some models, like in this one, there's 3 diamonds on one side. This one doesn't have any. So these 3 diamonds go facing you. So when you set the cam ring on the dowel pins, you'll see that the larger holes align with the elongations on the truss plate. And then the same thing will happen with the pressure plate. When you set it with the dowel pins right here in the smaller holes, the elongated holes here will align with these larger holes in the cam ring. And that's very important, because otherwise your pump will not produce any pressure. So the elongated holes here need to align with the larger holes on each side here. So you got this elongated hole, larger elongated hole. They all align with this one here and here. So your dowel pin would fit here and here. That's very important. Again, I want to emphasize, because otherwise your pump will not be able to produce pressure. If you put it on, it'll probably maybe even not make any noise, but you will not have, it'll be like there's no power steering. And then so we coated everything with all the hard parts with lots of power steering fluid. The O-rings, we've coated them with petroleum jelly and or Vaseline. And your O-rings, there are 3 channels in the pump. The first channel is reserved for the retaining ring. Then the second channel, you see, will take an O-ring right here. So your first channel here this channel here will take, that's for the retaining ring. Then you have your second channel will take an O-ring, and the third channel will take another O-ring. And you want to coat those O-rings with lots of petroleum jelly before you install them and after installation. And then as you install everything, you want to coat everything with lots of power steering fluid as well. So, and your vanes, some of them will have a rounded edge. If you have a type that has a rounded edge, the rounded edge goes towards the cam ring. Now, after that, what we need to do is we'll install our pressure plate, and our pressure plate also has elongated holes, which you'll see when if installed correctly, they will line up with the double pins go here in the smaller holes, and the larger holes will line up with the larger holes on the cam ring and on the truss plate below. Oops, so they go. So it sits like that. Okay, next we'll install our spring, and the spring goes right, it's going to sit right inside its channel, this channel you see here. So it goes in this way with the larger side down, and then we'll install our cover plate, which goes like this, and then the retaining ring will fit in the first channel. So we'll need to press this enough to start the retaining ring, start it in the channel. And at this point, it's a good idea to have an assistant help you with it, because it is kind of tricky. And another way of doing it, if you don't have an assistant to help you push, you can use a large C-clamp and to push in the middle here of the cover until you get the O-ring into its channel. It also helps if you put it on a vise, and then you can push here with a mallet or hammer, and with your, you can push against with your body or having an assistant push on it, and then as you put in the retaining ring. Okay, once we finished installing our end cover in the retaining ring, we proceed to install our flat O-rings from our kit around the bolt holes. These are the power steering reservoir bolts, and also another flat O-ring that goes on the high pressure port over here. So, and we'll also coat the inside of the cover where the O-ring sits. We'll coat the inside lip of the cover with petroleum jelly as well. And then once we do that, we'll put our reservoir back on. And then we'll install our power steering reservoir bolts and the high pressure inlet, making sure not to cross thread them. And we'll tighten them evenly. And this one, this is an 18 millimeter for these bolts. And we'll get someone to help us hold it down and tighten it up. For the high pressure inlet, we'll be using a 1-inch socket. Okay, and once we finish tightening this up, we're ready to reinstall our power steering pump.
And I think that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful. And please don't forget to subscribe and like and share. And as always, try to stay clean. Just try.